Hello and welcome to Idea Television News Update. I am Adewale Olashipo. We begin with the headlines. Nigeria's export drops to 5.3% in fourth quarter 2025. Zimbabwe plans to restrict under-18s access to social media. Pakistan orders austerity measures amid oil crisis. And Zambia to pilot AI integration in schools. And away from Africa, U.S. war in Iran to reach most intense day, says Defense Secretary. And in business, PETROAN urges NNPC to boost domestic refining amid rising global oil tensions. And lastly, in health, UCH doctors threaten indefinite strike over power crisis. And in sports, Iranian women footballers granted humanitarian visas in Australia. Now the news in full. Nigeria recorded a trade surplus of 1.71 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2025 despite a 5.3% decline in exports. The National Bureau of Statistics said today that exports fell to 18.96 trillion naira, mainly due to reduced crude oil shipments during the period. The report shows total mechanized trade stood at 36.21 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2025, slightly lower than the 36.60 trillion naira recorded at the same period of 2024. Imports, however, rose to 17.25 trillion naira, an annual increase of about 4% year-on-year, while crude oil remained Nigeria's largest export, valued at 9.70 trillion naira and accounting for more than half of total exports. The Netherlands, India, Spain, France, and Canada were the top export destinations, while China remained Nigeria's largest import partner. And now to Zimbabwe. The country and the government is planning to restrict access to social media platforms for users under the age of 18 as part of a proposed child online protection policy. The initiative was announced by Information and Communication Technology Minister during a speech in Karoi, outlining efforts to strengthen online safety for young people. Authorities say the proposal aims to protect minors from harmful online content, cyberbullying, exploitation, and social media addiction. The policy may require platforms such as Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram to introduce stronger age verification systems to prevent underage users from accessing their services. The plan reflects a growing global push to regulate children's use of social media amid concerns about mental health and exposure to inappropriate content. However, the proposal has also sparked debate, with some observers arguing that social media can support education, information access, and freedom of expression for young people. In other news, Pakistan has announced sweeping austerity and energy-saving measures after disruptions to global oil supplies linked to the war involving Iran. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif announced the step on Monday in a televised address, warning that instability in the Strait of Hormuz had put pressure on the country's fuel supply and economy. The government has introduced a 4-day work week for public employees, with 50% of staff working from home on rotation. Schools will close for 2 weeks from March 16th, while universities have been directed to move classes online to reduce fuel consumption. Officials say cabinet members will forgo salaries and allowances for 2 months, while lawmakers will take a 25% pay cut. Foreign travel for government officials will also be restricted as authorities attempt to conserve energy and stabilize the economy during the regional crisis. And now to Zambia. The government has signed a memorandum of understanding with Rizom Group Limited to pilot the integration of artificial intelligence in the country's education system. The agreement was signed today in Lusaka through the Ministry of Technology and Science and aims to introduce AI-powered learning tools in secondary schools and technical education, vocational and entrepreneurship training institutions to improve the quality and accessibility of education. Under the partnership, Obrizom Group will develop and deploy AI-driven learning platforms designed to transform teaching and learning. The pilot phase will begin with secondary school students before expanding to vocational training institutions with the aim of improving learning outcomes and preparing students for modern workforce demands. Officials say the initiative supports the government's broader education reforms and could help reduce learning gaps through personalized digital learning. The pilot program is expected to begin in mid-April 2026 with plans to expand the technology nationwide if the trial proves successful. Now we'll go on a quick break. The news continues when we return.
Democratize generative AI. Generative AI, which creates new content like text, images, or music, is becoming more accessible. This trend is enabling businesses and individuals to leverage powerful AI tools without needing deep technical expertise. Tools like DALL-E are already transforming marketing, entertainment, and design. However, as generative AI becomes democratized, concerns about copyright infringement and misuse of content are rising.
Welcome back. If you're just joining, this is Idea Television News Update. Now to the rest of the news. The United States Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says today will be the most intense day of American strikes on Iran since the war began. Speaking at a Pentagon news conference today, he said that the operation would involve the most fighters, bombers, and strikes so far. The comments come as the United States and Israel continue military attacks across Iran. Residents in Tehran told the BBC the strikes were heavy overnight with explosions reported in several areas. A video from the city of Karaj shows the shockwave from nearby blasts shattering a taxi window as the driver tried to flee. Pete Hegseth also said that Iran fired the fewest missile in a 24-hour period since the conflict started. Meanwhile, tensions remain high in the region. A senior Iranian security official also warned the United States President Donald Trump on social media to be careful after he threatened stronger actions if oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz are disrupted. Oil prices, which rose above $100 a barrel on Monday, later dropped closer to $90, while the United Kingdom says it is preparing a naval ship in case it is needed in the eastern Mediterranean. And now to business news. The Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria has urged the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to urgently strengthen domestic refining to protect the country from global petroleum market shocks. The association national president, Dr. Billy Gil-Harry, made the call on Monday asking the NNPC leadership to facilitate the immediate start of production at Nigeria's local refineries. He said the move has become necessary as the ongoing conflict involving Israel, the United States, and Iran continues to push global oil prices higher. According to him, sustained attacks on oil routes and infrastructure are creating uncertainty in global supply chains and driving fuel prices upward. The association warned that petrol prices could approach 2,000 naira per litre and diesel nearly 3,000 naira per litre if the situation continues. He says restarting production at the Port Harcourt and Warri refineries would reduce Nigeria's exposure to international price volatility and ease pressure on the economy. And now to health news. Resident doctors at the University College Hospital in Ibadan have threatened to begin an indefinite strike if the hospital management fails to resolve the ongoing electricity crisis. The president of the Association of Resident Doctors, Dr. Uthman Adedeji, said on Monday that doctors have issued a 21-day ultimatum which began on March 7, 2026. The doctors say unstable power supply in the hospital has affected patients' care and medical training. They had earlier held a one-week warning strike from March 2nd to March 6th, demanding improved electricity supply across the facility. The union says the hospital currently operates with limited daily power supply due to electricity rationing, forcing doctors to reject some patients and transfer critical cases to other hospitals. The doctor warned that failure to address the hospital problem within the deadline could lead to a full industrial action. In other news, 5 members of Iran's women's national football team have been granted humanitarian visas in Australia after fears for their safety following an anthem protest. Australia's Immigration Minister Tony Burke said the players were moved to a safe location by police and approved to remain in the country after they declined to sing Iran's national anthem before a match against South Korea last week. The players were due to return home after their elimination from the Women's Asian Cup, but supporters raised concerns they could face punishment in Iran. Authorities say the visas were approved early Tuesday after the athletes indicated they wanted to stay in Australia. The five players, Fatima, Zara, Atifa, and Mona, can now live, work, and study in Australia under the country's humanitarian protection program. Other members of the team were told they could also apply if they wish to remain in the country. And that's all we have for you on Idea Television News Update. But before we go, here is a recap of the headlines. Nigeria exports dropped 5.3% in the fourth quarter of 2025. Zimbabwe plans to restrict under-18s access to social media. Pakistan orders austerity measures amid oil crisis. Zambia to pilot AI integration in schools. U.S. war on Iran to reach most intense days, says Defense Secretary. PETROAN urges NNPC to boost domestic refining amid rising global oil tensions. And doctors at UCH threaten indefinite strike over power crisis. And lastly, in sport, Iranian women footballers granted humanitarian visa in Australia. Do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms at Idea Television. I'm Adewale Olashopo. Thank you for watching.